Michigan, what you say, the Michigan Campaign Finance Act doesn't mention the Secretary of State among all other campaigns. In, yeah. It's unique, probably an oversight, that only the Secretary of State was under that. Let's say, you know, the legislative action. It is her purview to find. She can issue. Yes. So you still have your state, your formal body. It's sort of the central issue. Well, it is a central issue that when it comes to punishment, the Attorney General can't punish the Secretary of State because there's this weird loophole where in a law that lays out who can be fined or sanctioned for violating this aspect of the Finance Act, that the Secretary of State does not mention. Yes. Sure. This is $7. So when you listen in on the street, we get any feedback or is it and we'll just go. We always turn them all down. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see our pictures? So, yeah. We may add more slides, but yeah, look at that. That was part of the meeting that happened. And what was in the box? Well, this is a gift. This is a very large bullet, from Selfridge, so from our general there. So yeah, this is on the White House Flickr page. So you look at it, but no, that's good. There's a meeting. This was after the folder, and yeah, we just thought it'd be nice. We have a lot of pictures, so we're going to start providing them in these things. But I just thought you guys would like to see that. So you guys wish Mike Harris was here? Yeah, he did a really good job last week. So no, it was good, and a lot going on. So no, I thought, it's very interesting, by the way, because when you read the reporting, the reporters fell for the revenue estimating conference's tricks. And, there's some very political estimators like the Zinn, who's the Senate. He's a political economist. And so what they did was they estimated these very high numbers in like January, and then here they come, the one they just had, and we can speculate why they estimated the real high numbers. I won't get into it, but we know why. And then they just came out with other numbers that still tell us we're growing, okay? So they say it's not a 5% growth, it's a 4% growth. And what they say is we're going to get $180 million every year of extra money that we don't have now. We're just not going to get $500 million a year extra money, surplus money forever. We're only going to get $180 million of extra money every year, which is 4% growth in revenue. The way it gets reported is you think it was a cut. It's not a cut. It's actually more government money than what we had in the last budget by $180 million. It's just not $500 million. So it's kind of interesting when you think about it that way, and we can wonder why these people were so over the top in terms of their estimate in January, and then they come with a lower estimate, and they blame Trump, of course. But you look at it, it's still 4% growth, and it's actually $180 million more a year. Now, I found it interesting about the revenue estimating conference, and once in a while, Craig Mauger points out something that I think is important. Is it working, Gideon? Not yet. Maybe we'll just leave it on this the whole time. Yeah. Look at this. When you see this, you're not going to believe it. Well, maybe it won't come up. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Look at that. I confirmed this with Chair Bolin. No Democrat lawmakers showed up to the revenue estimating conference. Isn't that interesting? None of them. Not the ultimate Lansing insider, Sarah Anthony. None of them showed up to the consensus revenue estimating conference. Now, they had a lot of opinions on it, but none of them showed up. And hey, for once, let's give credit to Craig Mauger for pointing out something relevant here. No Democrat lawmakers showed up. Now, I was downstairs, I was here yesterday working through the budget with Chair Bolin. We're looking at every line in the budget. And the lights were out in Ranjiv Puri's office, so there were no Democrat lawmakers present yesterday either on our floor. And you see it all the time, right? I mean, with the Democrat Senate session calendar, there's a lot of days when the Democrats are not showing up. In fact, they don't want the government workers to show up either. It's very interesting. And I saw this MERS podcast. I was watching it, or listening to it, and you see Sarah Anthony. She says, the ultimate Lansing insider, she says, well, we're putting too much pressure on the government workers to show up to work and to actually use the downtown businesses. Do you know what would solve the problem, she says? We should take all the empty parking lots and turn them into parks and show movies and then people will come in and they'll frequent the businesses. That's her solution. It's a very, very odd solution. Instead of proposals to pay the Lansing businesses to stay open and come up with parks and movies at night, we could do some of those things, but we should instead bring the government workers back to work. That would make a lot more sense. We just bring them back to work. I mean, the buildings are empty. You saw Zach Gorchow. He says that some of these departments, it's only 2 days a month that they have to show up to work. But what I find interesting about, now, do we have the quote on here? Is that next, the quote? Do you want to put the quote up? Look at this. This is the political economist himself, Zinn. Is his name David Zinn? It's David Zinn. He's a very political economist. Anyway, remember, this is the guy that lied about the mega credits, and we proved him wrong. Well, now he's lying. Hey, look at this. This is actually probably the only true thing this guy has said in a long time. So he's talking about the Sarah Anthony Senate Democrat budget. And he's saying, based on his revenue numbers, okay, this is their own fiscal agency. So when we're preparing a budget, what we do is we look at House Fiscal's numbers, okay? Now, fortunately for Sarah Anthony, House Fiscal and the governor's office, the budget office, they watered this down a little. But based on their own political economist, Zinn, they passed this budget, May 14th? That was less than a week ago. It would put the state in nearly a $1 billion deficit, according to their own numbers, okay? Now, I mentioned to you, we see an increase in revenue of $180 million, but yet they're going to put us in a $1 billion deficit. Now, what I found interesting about this, okay, so now you all very falsely reported that the things about our government shutdown prevention plan. Now, I think the Midwesterner got it right, but a lot of you falsely reported about the government shutdown prevention plan. I'll remind you, the government shutdown prevention plan actually has a higher per pupil foundation allowance number than the Democrat budget that puts us in a $1 billion deficit, according to their numbers. So it's actually the highest per pupil foundation allowance is in the government shutdown prevention plan, which is not even our real plan. That was $10,025, okay? No one else touches that. The governor doesn't, the Senate doesn't. And I'll just point out, okay, it's the Democrats and their trifecta that did not raise the per pupil foundation allowance number for the first time in over a decade. Last year in their budget, they gutted the hell out of school safety, 92% cut, and they did not raise the per pupil foundation allowance, which means those local districts did not get an increase per student because of the Democrat budget. Now the budgets they propose are actually less per pupil for these local districts than even the government shutdown prevention plan, which was really intended just as a stopgap in the event that Democrats like Mallory McMorrow, Sarah Anthony, and now Jeff Irwin shut down the government. And you're hearing Jeff Irwin now talking about shutting down the government. And of course they blame me. But what the fact is, if the government were to shut down, it's because these people are proposing a budget that by their own estimates is $1 billion in deficit, okay? And that's with $180 million more than what we had last year. Now, I'll just walk through, because they're always saying dishonest things about us, but I'm going to point out some accurate things about their budget, okay? If their budget that they pass, this $1 billion deficit budget, all right, they would kick 60,000 people off of Medicaid with their budget. They're $500 million short, okay? So the Democrat budget in the Senate that they passed less than a week ago, based on the current numbers, would kick 60,000 people off Medicaid. Now, it's very interesting. They always say these people, what is it? Like they, these real sick people, what they do is they say things about you when they're the ones really doing it. That's what you're seeing with this Senate budget, and that's why it's so irresponsible to put a budget out. So, okay, so add another $500 million to this? So to find that money, okay? And then their budget would actually kick 2,500 families off of the child care program. They're $30 million short on the child care program, the Child Development and Care Program. So they're going to kick 60,000 Michigan families off of Medicaid, and they're going to kick 2,500 families off of child care with their billion-dollar deficit budget. So it's very interesting. You see what they're doing. It's very irresponsible. And then they've got all kinds of pork in there. Do you know who didn't lose any money in this budget? The Lansing lobbyists. Every one of their things is in there. The problem is people on Medicaid and families, working families that need child care, they don't have lobbyists. So Sarah Anthony and the Senate Democrats, they don't put it in the budget. So it's fine to pass a budget, according to the Senate Democrats, that kicks 60,000 families off Medicaid and 2,500 families off of child care. It's fine to do that, but at least we funded all the Lansing projects. Very interesting if you look at their budget. Now, I'll just say, as we're moving forward with the budget, you know, Ann Bolin, and I know that BOJ is getting a lot of momentum. A lot of you are talking about BOJ now. What we're doing is we're going through this budget and we're taking this extra $180 million, which is great that the revenue is actually up. And what we're doing is we're going through the budget line by line, looking for value for your tax dollars. And we're going to make sure that all of these Michigan families get their Medicaid funding. We're going to make sure that they all of them that are currently eligible are going to get their child care. You know, when you see our budget, it's going to be there. You're not going to have a $1 billion deficit. Now remember, this $1 billion deficit is without them doing those things. So if they put the $500 million in there for child care, it'd be a bigger, or for Medicaid, it'd be a bigger deficit. If they put the $30 million in there for child care, it would be a bigger deficit. So you see the big problem they have here. They just stuff this thing full of every single thing that a Lansing lobbyist asks them for, but there's some really tough decisions that are going to have to be made. You look at what we're going to put forward in our budget, we're going to actually have a budget that is smaller than the year before with no deficit that's actually going to fund all of these critical programs, and it's going to reverse the Democrat income tax hike. We're going to require that the government workers come back to work. They're coming back. And we're going to fix our local roads without raising taxes. Now, remember, the Senate budget does not have a roads plan. Even Chad Livengood admits that, and he never admits anything that helps Republicans. But he's saying that, and he's right, the Senate has no roads plan. So they have off to the side a $3 billion placeholder for roads. So what you're going to see is they call it an $84 billion budget, bigger than the governor proposed, but it's actually an $87 billion budget if you put the roads in there, which is probably like a 7% increase off of last year. It's going to take us into major deficit, what the Senate's doing. So I'll just talk through, I'll say this, like when I'm looking at our roads plan, I look at it and say, our roads plan was predicated upon the $500 million of extra money. That was one of the planks of our roads plan, right? We're going to end the corporate giveaways, the mega credits and SOAR. We're going to do that. We're going to dedicate all of the money from the pump to the roads, something the governor and I agree on. And then our original plan was to take the $500 million in surplus money and dedicate that to roads. Well, now we only have $180 million of surplus money. So I went to our team yesterday and I said, what are some examples of some things we could cut to make up that shortfall? So 500 minus 180 is like 320 million. So what are some examples of what we could cut for the 320 million to show how, this is very simple. When you see our budget, you're going to see a lot more than this. I'm just showing you how simple it is to find $320 million to cut in this budget to put our roads plan back on the path where it is. It's a $3.1 billion roads plan. So Gideon, I'm just going to show this to you. These are some things that you could cut, all right, to fix the roads. Can you see it, Beth? We're going to have to put one on this side. Would that, yeah. Well, I'll read it to you. So right away, we can cut the remaining corporate giveaways, okay? You see there's $100 million for the Business Attraction and Community Development Fund. I think the Senate cuts most of this program, too, in their budget. The entrepreneurship ecosystem, these are just more corporate giveaways, putting corporations over everyone else. And none of these things are resulting in any job creations. I mean, I saw some of your stories today where you talk about, you know, the problems with Our Next Energy. And there was another one that you guys just reported on today that's having trouble with all these corporate giveaways. So we're not getting the results. And we're just saying local roads is probably more important to most people than these big corporate giveaways. So we'll just get rid of the rest of them. Next, the COVID-19 task force. Okay, they still get $22 million a year in this budget. The COVID-19 task force, I mean, what are these people doing? I mean, they're planning still about the COVID-19 pandemic. Maybe, I don't know, are they going around asking people to wear masks still? I don't know what they're doing, but what's more important, local roads or keeping the COVID-19 task force? It's just a great example. These programs never go away. The next one, I've talked about this, the arts and cultural grants, and I've been going through this, I've been combing through it. I mean, now, the Capitol Film Festival, barbershop quartets, I mean, it's incredible when you look at the list of everything this funds. I mean, parades, we know about the glass blowing. We found one today, puppet art. This is funding the puppet art. What's more important, puppet art or roads? And I think most people in Michigan would say roads. I mean, every puppet company in Michigan is getting a grant from these people. It's unbelievable. That's $11 million. The next one, the Office of Global Michigan for $28 million. And this is where Governor Whitmer has housed a lot of her initiatives to subsidize illegal aliens. I mean, we saw the illegal alien rent subsidies and many others located in the Office of Global Michigan. $28 million, we don't need that. And then I'll point this out. So I've been looking through their budgets, and I'm doing this from memory, but okay. So they tell me since Governor Whitmer took office, under the Democrat trifecta, all right, so 2 years, Democrat trifecta. Is it 1,700? 1,780, the new government employees during the 2 years of the Democrat trifecta. 1,780 new government jobs, government workers, all right? So a great expansion of government. And then they told me this year, Governor Whitmer is proposing, I think it's 820 new government workers. 830. Isn't that great? Gideon knows these numbers right on the dime. 830. So 830 new government workers being proposed by Governor Whitmer this year. And then they told me that in the Senate Democrat deficit budget, which is $1 billion deficit, it kicks families off Medicaid and kicks them out of child care. Their budget, what is it? It's around 400 new government workers. 360. You like? He knows exactly the number. It's not 359. It's 360. Okay. So the Senate Democrats want to hire 360 new government workers, create new government jobs this year. The governor, it's like 830. And this is on top of the I think you said it was 1,780 in terms of jobs that are new government jobs that Whitmer created over the last 2 years. So what we found out when we looked through the budget, though, there's currently 2,900 government state jobs that are not filled. They're just not filled. These are empty positions. And House Fiscal estimates that's $150 million. So you could save the taxpayers $150 million if you just eliminated these 2,900 phantom jobs that have never been filled. They're not filled. They just exist. And then on top of that, they want to add more. It's incredible. So this great expansion of government, they're expanding so fast they don't even fill the positions. So we eliminate those 2,900 employees that don't exist. They've never been hired. These are vacant positions. You're going to save $150 million. That puts you at $326 million. I just said the whole is $320 million. I just showed you right here $326 million of how you could fix the roads. Now the Democrats, they're going to say that we can't make cuts. I'm showing you right here. These are very easy cuts. Getting rid of the corporate welfare, getting rid of the COVID-19 task force, prioritizing roads over, film festivals and barbershop quartets and glass blowing, and ending the illegal alien subsidies and the other things that Global Michigan does, and then just eliminating all the positions that the Whitmer administration cannot fill. Now, remember, none of these people are working in the office. These are the ones they can't fill that are working from home probably. So I just wanted to point that out to you. It's very easy to do, and there's a lot more things that we could cut. I just put this up here for simplicity to show you some things that we're contemplating that are very easy to cut in this budget. Let's see. I don't know what the next thing is. Oh yeah, did you guys see this? The news story in the Midwesterner. We're working off these slides, but it doesn't really, I'm learning how to do it. So yeah, this was very interesting. We're looking at this great work by the Midwesterner, and a lot more detail in this story, and it's very nice. So we had a hearing today. I thought, and I didn't see all of it yet, but we're trying to hold Tyler Technologies and Secretary of State Benson accountable. You saw, I mentioned, I think it was last week when I announced to you that we were going to have to extend the deadline on the filing because the website didn't work. And our people told me that both Republicans and Democrats were very tough on Jocelyn Benson today, which is important. Now we know that according to the Chicago Tribune investigation, officials with Tyler Technologies, which is the hand-picked website company picked by Jocelyn Benson, they have a history of donating to Democrat candidates running for offices in need of modernization. We see that in Grand Traverse County, the 911 service designed by Tyler Technologies had all kinds of problems. It was a mess, and the Grand Traverse County was forced to spend $231,000 in one-time fees and an additional $301,000 in annual fees to maintain the service, which increased their annual contract by $167,000. We see that Genesee County it was in a lawsuit and alleges the company made fraudulent statements about the functionality of its software for 911 services. The House Oversight Committee has begun investigating this website and Jocelyn Benson's selection of this website. It's a total mess, and they're going to continue investigating it. We see that there's at least 19 federal lawsuits against this company. We saw in Cook County in Illinois, the cost ballooned from $75 million to $265 million with no end in sight. It's a complete mess. This $9 million website by Jocelyn Benson that does not work. We have some statements by Neil Tanadar, who is not a Republican. We all know that. He says that Jocelyn Benson's website does not work, and as long as the website fails to allow lawmakers to electronically file required disclosures, it is in violation of the Michigan Campaign Finance Act. And he notes the problems extend far beyond the ability of lawmakers to submit financial information, also blocking other previously available public information that details amounts collected by political campaigns, spending, lobbying information, and other transparency data critical for public's ability to vet candidates. He says, when simple tools like search, sort, and download are broken for months, many people give up trying to find campaign finance violations. That's true. It's going to have a very negative effect. We saw the tweet from Elena that says, the Department of State is now asking for a username and password to view campaign finance filings for elected officials. Previously, these were readily available through the site. And then I had Gideon look today. You can look, there's a password right here, password protected in many cases. Not every time, but in some cases, you have to put in a password and username on some of the portals into the website. Still to this day, we found that today. And so be careful if you're going on this website and looking into Jocelyn Benson or Tyler Technologies, because Jocelyn Benson might be monitoring you. It's interesting, we went on today, we Googled. Now, people think we should use DuckDuckGo. It's a much more fair browser, but somebody used Google. They typed in SOS, Lobby Search Michigan, Tyler Technologies, pops up. That's the name of the website, Tyler Technologies. This website still does not work. It was so bad we had to extend the filing for a month, and we had to decide that basically we're just going to take it away from her. We can just email in the form because this website may never work. $9 million wasted of the taxpayers' money, and we're going to continue to investigate the House Oversight Committee. I read yesterday Dana Nessel talking about how Jocelyn Benson violated campaign finance law with her campaign announcement. So it's not good, not good. We need her to get off of the campaign trail and stop selling books and fix her website. That's what we're going to need her to do. So I'll just, anyway, great job by the Midwesterner. I mean, you guys keep finding more and more stuff every week. It's really impressive what we're seeing on there, and appreciate it. Just look, oh yeah, did we give them this stuff, Gideon, about the Fitzgerald stuff? Okay, we're going to give that to you. So, you know, we all saw John Fitzgerald lie on Rick Albin's show, and we're going to give this to you so you all have it. But every one of these packages, school safety, heat, public safety trust fund, education reform, energy, immigration, economic development, roads, every one of these are bipartisan. Every one of these had Democrat input. They're bipartisan. The difference between us and the Senate is every one of these packages pass with a lot of Democrat votes. The Senate might get one Democrat vote once in a while, or Republican vote. Maybe they get one Republican vote on one bill once in a while. But you look, I mean, school safety, 22 Democrats, 29 Democrats, all but 2 Democrats, 29 Democrats. I mean, you look at this. Now, remember, we'll talk about this in a sec, but Ron G. Puri is not one of them. Heat, 24 Democrats, ban NDAs, 35 Democrats, 48 Democrats to end the revolving door, 49 Democrats, lobbying ban for current lawmakers. Now, all the Republicans. Public Safety Trust Fund, 49 Democrats. By the way, did you see in the Democrat Senate budget, they don't fund the Public Safety Trust Fund? They don't do that. They cut funding for Detroit. It's amazing what they're doing in that. You look at education reform, 44 Democrats. And you know, I can go through it. I'm going to give you guys this so you see it. We had the Rice generators to repeal part of the Democrat energy law. 25 Democrats joining all the Republicans. So these are all bipartisan packages. You're going to get copies of this. And we had 7 Democrats voting for the Hall Roads plan to fix our local roads. Are we talking about the Puri stuff next? Yeah, so I mentioned how we had quite a few Democrats vote for the school safety plan, but not Ron G. Puri. Do you want to show him this? Remember this report? Look who's in the report, right here. Ron G. Puri. Shows up for the pictures. You have the signed part? Look at this. He signs the report. This is the 2022 school safety report right here. Signed by Ranjiv Puri. And what does he do? He votes no. He votes no on most of the bills in the report. Votes no. So he does the pictures. He talks about it on the campaign. He signs the task force report recommendations, but because of his negative governing philosophy, he votes no on the bills, including House Bill 4226, which adds more active shooter drills in the schools, House Bill 4222, which requires schools to review and update their safety plans every 3 years, House Bill, I believe I have them all, 4223, addresses required training for school resource officers, and House Bill 4315 focuses on training for school resource officers and staff with specific guidelines on threat assessment teams. Ranji Puri votes no. Negative governing philosophy, and that's why we have such a hard time dealing with this guy. I mean, he's on the report, he signs the report, his picture's in it, and then he votes no on the most critical bills in the package. Amazing. Just really happy to see the testimony tomorrow in the Education Committee on a good bill that Brad Paquette is putting forward to ban a lot of things, including these dyes in schools, the red 40, the green 3, blue 1, blue 2, yellow 6, all these dyes. These are linked to hyperactivity, allergic reaction, hives and asthma, hyperactivity, inattentiveness, restlessness, irritability, hives, rashes, itchy skin, difficulty breathing, low blood pressure, vomiting, all kinds of things. And so we're very happy to see that work go through with testimony tomorrow on the Education Committee to ban a lot of these dyes that are really causing a lot of health problems with our children and adding to a lot of the disease epidemics that are going on. And so we're going to work to ban those things from being in foods at schools. And looking forward to that testimony tomorrow in the Education Committee. So looking forward to that. I don't know, do I have anything else I was going to go over? Okay. I'm not used to using notes, so. All right, well, I'll stop there and take any questions. Yeah, go ahead.
With the statement that Dana Nessel made yesterday about the loophole that Benson used, are we to believe that our Secretary of State is above the law, and can you interfere with that in any way, or can you do anything about that?
Yeah, it'd be interesting how many of you think that Jocelyn Benson will fine herself. That'll be very interesting to see what she does with that. I mean, it was a clear violation of the campaign finance law. I pointed that out months ago, and many other Republicans pointed it out. I think everybody could tell on the face of it that it was a violation of the campaign law, that you have your campaign announcement in your office. I mean, that on its face should be very clear that's a violation of the campaign law. And Jocelyn Benson has maintained for months that it was allowed. And I mean, the fact that Dana Nessel even came out and pointed out it was a violation of the law is incredible. It's been a very bad week for Jocelyn Benson, and it's just getting started. I mean, if she could just leave the campaign trail and stop selling books and start doing her job, I think things would get a lot easier. You know, that's what the people of Michigan expect. So, you know, we're looking over the comments that Dana Nessel made and thinking about it, but it is interesting who is going to hold her accountable for violating the law, and it may have to be the legislature. We may have to do it through oversight hearings and through her budget. That may ultimately be what has to happen. Yeah, Rick.
On that point, the Assistant Attorney General who wrote that determination
Mhm.
suggested the legislature might want to close the loophole that says the law that she or another Secretary of State couldn't be fined or sanctioned. Is that something that the House is going to look at?
Well, you're right. So we're evaluating that, what Dana Nessel said. I mean, we're looking at that and evaluating it. I will point out, though, we have the House Oversight Committee. We do ultimately control Jocelyn Benson's budget. And so we're going to look at all of the tools that we have at our disposal to decide exactly how to handle this violation of the law, which is pointed out by both Republicans and Democrats as a violation of the law. Did you have a question? Yeah. Yeah, and hey, so you're at Michigan Advance now. Well, congratulations. That's a great, they're actually, a lot of people think they're funded by the Democrats, but I actually find they actually are pretty fair with me so far. So hopefully you'll keep that up. All right, good. You gave me the thumbs up,
My question is, instead of going at it from a House oversight standpoint, I mean, this could affect future secretaries of state. So would it be, approved to rewrite campaign finance law first, as opposed to using the lever of the House oversight committee?
Yeah, so like I said, we're evaluating what Dana Nessel said, and we're going to consider the options we have, and one of them is to rewrite the law. And we also have other tools that we can use to hold Jocelyn Benson accountable. So I think we got the report yesterday. It was like, and so we're evaluating it. We're talking with our members. It's not like Joe Tate where, they didn't remember when they lied. He lied to all of his members about what was in the education budget. We actually talked to our membership and get their ideas. So Dana Nessel's put something forward. We have a lot of things we could do, and we're going to evaluate it with our members, and that includes Rochelle Smith, who's the chair of the Election Integrity Committee, and we're going to come back to you with how we're going to handle it. Any other questions? Yeah. Right. Yeah, and we could cut a lot more. These are just some of the things.
But I'm looking at like the community development grants, arts and culture grants, entrepreneurship ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
into the report from the Michigan Population Council
Mm-hmm.
that was talking about the need to improve quality of life by things like this in Michigan. Do you think there's risk there in cutting some of these programs that people turn the state?
Right. Well, I'll just start out with, there's not that many things in the Population Council report that the Democrats or Governor Whitmer have acted on. There's a couple, but not a lot. And I mentioned this to you once before. I thought it was very interesting when Governor Whitmer went to Washington and gave a speech and talked about the need for a coordinated strategy. But her own Population Council told her that Michigan does not have a coordinated economic growth plan. So I thought that was very interesting. But I'll just point out, I think what matters most, and if you looked at that slide, right, I think the top frames it. Local roads or question mark. And that's ultimately, because we're not going to do what the Democrats did. The Democrats in the Senate created a budget that, according to their fiscal analyst, is a $1 billion hole in the budget. It's a deficit budget. Okay, it's putting the state in deficit. And they passed it a week ago. They rushed to pass it, and they created a $1 billion deficit. And that's a $1 billion deficit if you cut the hell out of people's Medicaid and their child care, right? You take 60,000 families off Medicaid, and you take, I think it was 2,500 families' child care away. You're still running a $1 billion deficit. I just simply would submit that I think that when people campaign, they talk about fixing the local roads. We saw Governor Whitmer do that. We saw many Republicans and Democrats do that. And I think fixing our local roads is a higher priority in a budget than funding barbershop quartets and the Lansing Capitol Film Festival. That's just my view. And then a lot of these corporate giveaways, they're good, they sound good, but we're not seeing the results. And as we keep looking at all of your reporting, you guys keep reporting to us that these things pay out a lot of money and are not producing the results. Now, that money comes at the expense of our local roads. That's what it comes at the expense. And for years and years and years, the politicians neglected the local roads and they funded this stuff. We're just saying, let's fund the local roads first. Governor Whitmer proposes raising the corporate income tax, and she proposes all kinds of additional taxes. So the question is, do you want higher taxes to fund this stuff? And make it about the Office of Global Michigan and the corporate giveaways and the Arts Council. They want a higher tax to pay for that because they always make it about roads. We're going to fund roads first, and if the public wants that stuff, then they can make their case for the higher taxes.
So you think that this budget has to have either or philosophy?
Well, I think we need to put the money in there to fix our local roads. I think the taxpayers of Michigan are seeing this budget grow. It's grown 43% under Governor Whitmer. You saw, I mean, with the proposal the Senate put forward, it's like a 7% increase if you include the roads in it. So it keeps going up, it keeps growing. And I'm just saying, somebody has to come in here, look through all the line items, and look for value for the tax dollars and do something that they haven't done here in a long time, which is set priorities. You have this much money, you set priorities. And that's what we're doing, and the House Republicans are prioritizing local roads, something that no other group here in Lansing has done. They prioritize lobbyists, not roads. Yeah.
The Senate is going to pass out package legislation that would allow survivors of sexual assault on longer statute of limitations to bring claims and also for prosecution charges. Is that something that you think might have some traction in the House? How do you feel about this?
Well, my recollection of this is that, and I'm not sure about all the details of the package. I haven't looked at it, but is it true that when the Democrat trifecta, they couldn't get that done?
It didn't have to be in the House.
Yeah, so when Joe Tate was Speaker, they didn't move it, right? The House Democrats didn't move it. And now I'm sure they're going to say, well, it's all my fault, right? But, I mean, they had their trifecta. They had a Democrat Speaker. They didn't do a hearing on it. They didn't move the bills. So, you know, I mean, I would guess there aren't the votes on the Democrats to do it in the House. I don't know. There must be a reason. Well, I haven't looked at it, but, you know, I think the idea of extending statutes of limitations for decades or whatever it is, I don't know how long, you know, that creates a lot of questions, a lot of legal problems. So we'll look at it. I haven't seen it, but you didn't see the Democrats move it when they were there. So it must have a lot of problems, but we'll see. Yeah, Tim. Well, I think we know all of them. I mean, you look at them. I mean, you look at all the Lansing lobbyists. They're doing very well in this budget, Tim. And what you don't see, you know, is lobbyists for Medicaid or child care, apparently, because they don't get the same treatment as you see all of them get under Sarah Anthony's budget. It's amazing. Well, like I said, it's pretty much all of them. I mean, you look at it, you can look through them, and you can see who who gets the benefits of this budget. It's amazing, Tim. Well, like I said, it's all of them. I mean, you can look at it. It's all of the lobbyists. Well, you go look. I mean, I'll tell you, you know why Tim has to ask me this? Do you know why? Because you can't see them on the Secretary of State's website with Jocelyn Benson. They're not on there. Nobody can look at the lobby disclosure, so you would have to ask me that. So I'll tell you this, Tim, when the website starts working, maybe we'll print up the list, but we can't do it because nobody can tell. So I don't blame you for asking me that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, quick transition. Aside from the transparency and the concern that the money spent on a system that only kind of maybe works,
It doesn't work, according to Neil Tanadar.
one of the concerns raised by one of your Democratic colleagues on the committee this morning was that, you know, this could cause major ballot access issues for candidates and members of the legislature. I wonder what your take is on that concern, and, you know, it looks like they're willing to work with those candidates if those issues arise, but if they don't, what kind of action would you take?
So they're saying, I want to make sure I understand this, and they're Democrats raising these concerns about Jocelyn Benson's failed website. And they're saying that essentially there are ballot access issues if you can't. Right, yeah. Well, I'd say, if I were somebody like Mike Duggan, I'd be pretty worried, right? I mean, we saw what Jocelyn Benson did to RFK Jr., right? Where RFK Jr. said, please, please, take me off the ballot, and she wouldn't. And then wasn't it Cornel West? She found some way to disqualify him. And so, yeah, I'd say with all this chaos, with a website that doesn't work, and a very political Secretary of State running for governor, I'd be worried if I was someone like Mike Duggan or one of these other candidates that she's looking for a way to disqualify off the ballot. I'd be worried, yeah. There may be, Republican candidates. How many Republican candidates did they disqualify from the ballot? So I'd be worried. Yeah, you said 5. He knows off the top of his head.
Might there also be a legislative solution to that? What we did with the Senate?
I would be worried if I were a candidate trying to challenge Benson for governor that they may use the website or any of this stuff to come up with a technicality to disqualify you from the ballot. So I'm not surprised one of the Democrats is raising that as a concern. That's probably pretty sharp. I hadn't even really contemplated that, but that's why we have committees, and I set up the committees so that, Republicans and Democrats were on committees that they could really produce. And you're seeing that on the Oversight Committee with questions like that, so that's great. And then you were asking me about a legislative solution. I know like Perry Johnson, he put forward some ideas on what should be done to address things. Like he told me that like when they challenge your signatures and things like that you don't even get to see it. That like the opportunity to see which ones have been challenged and look, and there's no signature match. Like there's no way to take it to them in advance and get them to tell you whether the signatures match. So there's a lot of issues with ballot access, and I know our Election Integrity Committee will look at that. And I thought Perry Johnson had some good ideas, but yeah, I'd be worried about that website. Very interesting. Yeah, Beth.
Speaker, what kind of message do you think it sends for the House people about the obvious for becoming an island that it hasn't advanced a single digit?
Well, I'd say it was very interesting to read the comments of the CEO of the Detroit Chamber. What is his name? Do you know? Sandy Brugha? Yeah. So I read his comments, and I saw the West Michigan Policy Forum just named a new CEO, Jace Bolger. That's a big deal. I think that's really going to add a lot of clout to the policy conversations that are going on in West Michigan. Many people think the West Michigan Policy Forum very soon will overtake Business Leaders for Michigan and the Detroit Chamber. So we'll see. Maybe we won't have to go to the conference anymore. But very interesting stuff going on in West Michigan with their policy, and I'm looking forward to working very closely with Jace and with the West Michigan Policy Forum. I think this is something I've really gone back and forth on, and I think every year I start with the premise that I'm not going to go to the conference. You just saw, just for me, we weren't going to have a quorum. There were too many members that really wanted to go to the conference. And so I just came to the conclusion when we were putting the calendar together that we were going to just go with it. And, we'll see. I think maybe this will be the last year because, I'm going to be speaker for, oh boy, what did Jordan say? I think she even got the year wrong. I think it's like 2030. Anyway, is it 2030, 2031? Let's see, what year is this? 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, something like that. So, we're gonna look at it. I don't know if we'll go back after this year, but this year we had to do it because there were just a majority of members that were planning to go. They invite me to go on a panel every year, so we're gonna do that. And now, remember, by the way, it was the Democrats that wanted to change the law to make it so that this conference and other conferences were free. You remember that? And I told them we're not going to run that bill. I said, we're not going to run that bill. And I came up here at the press conference and talked about it. And then what happened? Jocelyn Benson, who, by the way, many of these, you won't know this because the website doesn't work, but I'm told, rumor, that many of these Detroit Chamber elites donate to Jocelyn Benson and are supporters of hers. But it's a coincidence, we're told, that Jocelyn Benson reversed her decision and said, oh, you know what? Even the Democrat who is on the worst committees in the minority somehow is above the threshold just for this one conference so that everyone can get free trips to Mackinac. I wasn't going to reverse it. I wasn't going to change it. And they came back and they found another way to do it through Jocelyn Benson. So, you know, that's, so now all the politicians can go for free. And that's when we were going to lose the quorum. So I just said, I'll go, I'll do the panel.
But, I mean, is there a risk of lobbying and not showing up? If you control the calendar, you say show up next week, and you let the lawmakers take the conference, not showing up and not passing the budget?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that we're working through our budget, and you see what happened here with a rushed budget, a $1 billion deficit, and then they cut 60,000 people off Medicaid and 2,500 families off of child care. That's what happens when you rush on a budget. So the Mackinac Conference, which I've told you, I really question whether we're going to go in the future. I question it every year. And the reason is because it's mostly Democrat programming at the conference. I mean, you go to the conference, I go up there, the only Republicans are like Lynn Cheney and a bunch of never Trumpers. You know, last year, Paul Ryan. I mean, they're always Democrat Republicans. They're Republicans, but they're never Trumpers. And then you go up there and they try to lecture us on, you know, why we should basically do whatever Whitmer proposed that year. So, you know, I look at it and say, why are we going to this? Because the Republicans are not accurately presented at this conference. But, you know, like I said, a lot of our members really want to go. And so you see, I added weeks in the summer, right? So we're going to be here in the summer. And the Mackinac Conference, there's a lot of reasons why I really question whether we should go in the future, and I really question whether this is a fair conference or just another Democrat conference. But the budget's not one of them. I'm not worried about the budget being impacted by the conference. And by the way, the Senate Democrats are going to be there anyway. Right, but I'm just saying the budget's not going to be impacted by the Mackinac Conference. I'm going there every day. I'm working with our people going through the budget. But what is going to be important about the budget is, you know, I mean, for the first time, we're actually going through all of these lines and looking at them and challenging them and questioning them and saying, just because they've done it this way for 20 years, does it still work? No one does that. You look at the Senate Democrat budget, which puts us $1 billion in deficit according to their estimate. It's just putting 3% on the top. Nobody goes through the programs and looks at them critically and says, does this program even exist? I mean, I found ones in there, I'm just telling you, that don't even exist. And they're passing through federal money. And this program hasn't existed, and they still pass through federal money. So no one is looking through these things and critically thinking about it, and that's what we're doing. But it's not going to impact the budget, and we've added weeks in the summer. We're actually going to have more session days this year than the House has had in probably the whole time I've been here.
You said we would circle back to this week, which was, are you concerned about the prospect of Medicaid funding at the federal level that the state would have to backfill to maintain?
Well, I'd say the first thing I'm concerned about is the current Senate Democrat plan in the Michigan Senate Democrats, which kicks 60,000 people off of Medicaid. And that's with the federal government doing nothing. So I guess I'm concerned about that to start. They have a rush budget. It puts us in deficit. And you're not going to see that from the House. Now, I'll say this, you know, as I'm looking through the Medicaid budget, which we're doing very carefully with Greg Van Workum, who's doing a great job, by the way. I saw they had a hearing today. I think you're looking at all of the different things that Medicaid does, which we're doing. But what I've been told is that a lot of these things are like kicking illegal aliens off Medicaid. I mean, if that's a cut, I agree with it. I mean, kicking illegal aliens off Medicaid, it makes sense, right? So I think as they're looking at eligibility and asking those questions, I think it makes sense. But I don't see any real serious conversations about kicking needy people legitimate need, like American citizens and, people that are here legally and are people that are eligible. I'm not seeing anything I'm aware of that's kicking those people off Medicaid. The only proposal that I've seen that would kick those people off Medicaid is the Senate Democrat budget in Michigan, which would cut 60,000 of them off. Go ahead.
Just same track, does that include the Medicaid expansion that you want to keep at as it is what you're
Well, I haven't seen anything that cuts the Medicaid expansion at the federal level. Like I said, the only thing I've seen is it cuts the illegal aliens off and, other people that probably shouldn't be eligible. But I don't see anything that addresses the expansion in a negative way. So if you guys could correct me, but I haven't seen that. So, but we see the Senate Democrats kicking 60,000 people off. So that's concerning. You won't see us do that. All right. Thanks, everybody. Nice job. Do you like the slides or no? I do better without the slides, but it's easier, hopefully, for you guys to follow on House TV. All right. See you guys.